Hello and welcome to If These Heels Could Talk. Yeah! I'm JoyGenea with Solutions by JoyGenea.
And I'm Michelle with Bad Cat Digital.
And welcome to If These Heels Could Talk.
We said that a lot.
Well, you can't say it enough. Is there too much branding?
Welcome to If These Heels Could Talk, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
We've definitely got it covered. That's funny. So is that the spirit of the law, or is that
or is the letter of the law?
The letter of the law.
Well, I mean, the spirit is there's not too much branding. The letter is say your name as often as possible if these heels could talk, and that can kind of get kind of stupid if these heels could talk. So maybe the letter of the law is
a little too far,
maybe a little much, but it's still very important because there's a lot of risk for doing illegal things when you're a business owner.
Yes. So
we
that is our topic.
That is our topic.
That's
our topic
what we're talking
today.
about. The letter of the law and the spirit of the law.
Yes. So here's the situation. This is what happened.
Yes.
I put a job listing out. So there's a lot of laws in HR. I put a job listing out. Mm-hmm. I got an applicant who I was very impressed by. I was very impressed on paper.
Let's just say
I was very impressed by their resume.
They checked enough boxes that you would like.
Yep,
you're
I
going to move forward.
was very impressed by the resume. I was incredibly impressed by the cover letter. I was, it was professional, well thought through, and the relevant experience in the resume was exactly what I was looking for.
Got it.
So I thought to myself, this is perfect. I'm bringing this person in for an interview. First thought, I definitely have to talk to this person.
Nice. Okay.
Then I saw on their resume that a professional acquaintance of mine had been a former boss.
Oh, perfect.
Excellent. This is one of the reasons that we know each other in the business community.
Yep.
And just in case you're out there looking for a job, just know that your potential employer is talking to all of your previous employers if you've worked at small businesses. If you've worked at large corporations, the previous employers have very few things that they can say.
Correct.
And that is because of why?
Laws.
The letter of the law.
The letter of the law.
But small businesses, you know, like the letter of the law doesn't really, like the risks aren't there. And as long as you don't put it in writing and you have it, like who's really going to, anyway.
Yeah.
So I call the person's former employer.
Yes.
The person's former employer informs me that this potential employee, who I'm very excited about, has a medical condition that could potentially impact their ability to do the job and or their performance.
Yeah.
Well, now what?
Well, you can run and hide like most people do because that's easy.
Yes. So
so you can just
hide
never
option
call them. There's always
Yes. But see, what I would say is I was excited to talk to them. That violates the spirit of those HR laws. So the HR laws are put in place to not deny people opportunity based on their color, their previous employment status, their religion, their medical needs, their this, their that, there's a whole list of protected classes there.
Disabilities.
And disability is on that list. And if this were somebody that the piece of information that I had was one of those other classes, I wouldn't have any sort of issue.
The accommodations, what would be necessary to balance that out would be fairly easy. This doesn't exactly have the same type of accommodations.
But I don't necessarily know that.
There's a good thing.
And I won't know that unless I talk to this person and this person tells me.
Discloses.
Which is their right not to.
So here, this is, and we're not going to answer this quite yet.
I can't ask.
Yes. That is the letter of the law.
Right. So I have two choices.
Oh, you got a whole bunch of choices.
Well, I saw two before I talked to you this morning.
Oh, okay.
Now I see another one and I really like it. But I had two choices. Either A, violate the spirit of the law and not talk to a person that I was excited talking about again, thereby denying somebody the opportunity, but in a way that nobody would ever know.
Right.
Or B, I could follow the letter of the law and then open myself up to the appearance that I didn't follow the letter of the law, because the chances of somebody with that, who needs that kind of accommodation, getting the position and being successful in it are fairly low. And I definitely don't want to set anybody up to fail.
Right.
So,
and then there's always the question of team chemistry. Like there's all sorts of things that go in.
So in order to then interview this person, I would have to be really vigilant about my interview, which is not my style.
No.
I have to be very vigilant about the questions that I ask, make sure they're all even and equal to all of the candidates. Yep. I would have to make sure that I took really good notes and or recorded the sessions. Like all of those things are things that I would need to do and am happy to do.
That's nice.
But I'm opening myself up to the risk of appearance like I didn't follow the law. When in reality, if I just walked away now, it wouldn't appear like anything.
Again,
but I
number
would
A.
be, in my heart and mind and understanding, I would be violating the spirit of that law.
Yes. And adding to that, I would also add, you might also be missing out on an amazing employee opportunity.
Absolutely. And so this really feels like one of those like ethics 101 questions. Like the train is coming down the tracks and there's one person standing in front of it. Do you save?
Well, it goes from other so I'm also coaching young people that are in college or graduating out of college. So I say we're applying because I'm coaching and holding them accountable. We're applying for a lot of jobs. I didn't realize that mental health shows up on a lot of job applications. It truly does. There's a question. Yes, I have seen it numerous times. It says
you can't ask that.
It flat out asks that. Do you have any mental health issues? And then it asks you to check the box.
Okay, that's massively inappropriate.
So that became our question. That became the overriding question.
Massively inappropriate.
Should they check that? Because these, if I'm coaching these young people, they have neuro differences, right? And some of them are listed.
Right.
So, and they're comfortable with who they are.
Right.
They have no problem having those conversations. But what we decided, we have stopped doing that. We've sought out a couple of different institutions to find out what they thought about that. And they said due to the algorithms, not to. We also did research on the companies to see how diversified they really were, and if they were there are certain databases that you can access that will tell you if these companies really have already mastered what you're talking about.
Okay.
They know how to have appropriate interviews. They know how to incorporate neurodiversity and mental health. Like, there are companies that seek this out. They really do, and they know how to handle this. So we went to some of those databases. There was one company that one of my clients was applying for that fell under that bracket.
Okay.
And because of that, we actually changed up her cover letter to highlight this. And she checked the box, and actually she got an interview. Okay. And we think it was because that is part of who they were seeking.
Right.
And but the rest of them, we finally came to the conclusion that was completely blocking them from getting in the door. That much honesty was not even, and we couldn't, when we sought out the services of the colleges they graduated from and talked to their job placement place, and we're like, should they really be answering this? I can't believe they asked this question.
I cannot believe they asked that question.
Oh, they do. And
wow.
I know. So and we couldn't decide, were they asking that question to eliminate candidates or were they asking it to be inclusive? And what would they do with that information? Because they never asked, not one of them asked, what types of accommodations would you need to do this position?
Right.
Which should have, I felt, if I'm going to check yes to
so they're assuming.
They're assuming all sorts of things. I'm like, you don't know.
And you're assuming.
Right.
And because there's no choice but to assume. So
that was an interest. So this conversation actually is really important, and it's coming from two directions.
It's crazy. So I would, I'm in this conundrum, right? This conundrum has and I think I found through some common, because we are in a small community.
Yes,
we have common I know common people other than the former boss of this person.
Yeah,
and so alluding to the common people that we know in a phone conversation might get me where I need to go.
Yeah, and
open up some doors to continue the conversation, because frankly, it is just flat out wrong to deny an opportunity at a job. For a job that somebody wants to that person because of something that I don't know about. Yeah. And it is just flat out wrong.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are real world, this is not an ethics classroom.
No.
And there are real world repercussions to the choices that I make in that process.
Yes. And you have to be conscious of them.
And I have to think about them.
You have to be aware of them.
I have to think about them.
You have to be conscious of them.
So I'm not trying to decide whether it's wrong or not. I want to be really clear with that. It's just flat out wrong. What I'm trying to decide is it a way that I'm willing to be wrong for a higher purpose? Mm-hmm. And I don't know the answer to that yet because I'm not clear on the higher purpose yet. And so I'm just, it's a difficult situation to be in. And I can't imagine in this situation, a lot of times people feel like when hiring, the employer has all of the power. But it's not true. And I think a lot of people feel that way in jobs in general, that the employer has all of the power.
Yep.
And it's really not true. Employment, your job, your career is an act of will and consent. And when you are, unless you are truly in circumstances where you are stuck for other reasons, your job is negotiable, right?
Yeah.
What you do, how you do it, what you get paid, how you get paid, who you work for, all of those things are negotiable. And all of those things can change, not immediately, not overnight, but all of those things can change. And when you walk into an interview, you're interviewing as a potential employee, you're interviewing the employer as well.
Absolutely. You should be. If you're not, you should be.
Right. And so I think the letter of the law is written to assume that the employer has all of the power.
Yeah.
But the spirit of the law doesn't assume that. And so I want to encourage people to think around why something is the way it is, or why something is written the way it's written, or who it was written for, or why it was written for that person, when it was written, all of those things. And say to yourself, yes, I can follow the letter of this law. That's not a problem at all. But I could also live within the spirit of it.
Yeah.
And that's different. And sometimes that creates some uncomfortable conundrums.
And a few weeks ago, we were talking about how hiring right now does need to broaden.
Yes.
And people need, so part of why we wanted to bring this conversation to the table and share it is the fact that there will have to be these uncomfortable pre-conversations.
Yes.
If you're going to have interviews with people that check boxes for mental health or check boxes for neurodiversity or have physical
differences. Yeah. Physical extra abilities or disabilities or inabilities, or have circumstances that don't impact the job performance at all, but might impact the physical space.
Right. And all of that, if you've never done it before, it will be new and it will be uncomfortable and you will push up against these letter of the law, spirit of the law types of things. And I will also tell you, like so many things in life, the first time's just kind of awkward and clunky. Yeah. And it just improves after that. You get better at it.
The other thing is, as small business owners, we have the luxury and privilege of doing this ourselves. We don't have to live, we're not, the HR manager at a 7,000 person corporation who's trying to fill a box, answer to their own boss, who answers to their own boss, who answers to their own boss.
Right.
And, hire somebody for a position or recommend somebody for a position that then an immediate supervisor is mad about because they have to do X, Y, and Z differently. We don't have that problem.
Nope.
We have the opportunity to solve our labor challenges with creativity, with accommodation, with changing what we think an employee looks like or sounds like or acts like. Whether we want to do that or not is up to us, but we have the opportunity to do it in a way that larger corporations just don't.
Yeah, and it is an opportunity. That's what we're encouraging you. Don't just hit the easy button. And you might choose
the
you're going to walk
button,
away.
But
that's
think
okay.
about it.
But I hope this podcast causes you to just think about it a little bit and recognize you're not alone. Right. You're not alone in needing to or wanting to look at this differently. That is part of change.
So I haven't decided. I don't know. I don't know the answer to my conundrum. I don't know. And I don't even know if it is a conundrum. That's the thing. And that's like so many other things that I think about as a small business owner. I don't even know if they're problems. I don't even know if they're opportunities. I don't even know. So how do you make a decision when you don't even know what the stakes are, what the circumstances are, what the choices are?
I'll help you out. You ask more questions.
You ask more questions and you have more conversations. And when you do that with your 5 people board, or you do that with
your trusted advisors, we're going back to that, your friends, trusted advisors,
you will find paths through, because it's not about solving a problem. No. It's about finding the path to the next challenge. Because it's you never spike the football. And as we are training leaders in now, I'm helping them understand that that you have to find achievement in the small victories, because there is never a spike the football end zone moment where it's all good and it's all done and you don't have to think about anything else. And if you don't stop and celebrate the small achievements along the way of that path, you are going to drive yourself crazy.
You will. Yes.
Maybe that's another techniques and tactics for that. It can be another topic. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us at If These Heels Could Talk. I'm Michelle.
I'm JoyGenea.
And
you'll hear us next week.
Have a great week, everybody.